Hello, this is Cari Wolfe. I'm Director of Research and Genetic Development at the American Jersey Cattle Association. Today I will present changes to the body weight composite that was recently approved by the Board of Directors of the American Jersey Cattle Association. Implementation of these changes will be with the December 2017 official genetic evaluations. As you will note, JPI continues to evolve, and with the examples you'll see later in this presentation, while the impact may not be large, the JPI changes reflect the incorporation of Jersey-specific research data. What you see before you is a pie chart of the Jersey Performance Index, JPI 2017, that was implemented in April of 2017. What we are going to focus on now today is just one sliver or slice of the pie, and that is the body weight composite that's in at 7% of the JPI index. The emphasis stays the same, it's just that the weights on individual traits will change. So feed efficiency and body weight composite have been a part of the JPI index, but in December of 2017, it will be updated using Jersey data. Previously, we were using research data from feed efficiency studies with Holstein cattle, and that was modified then to be used with Jerseys, but now we have Jersey-specific information. The AJCA collected and compiled weights and appraisal scores for stature, strength, dairy form, and rump width. Special thanks to the participating herd owners and staff for letting us come in and collect body weights, and because that's not a routine part of your process, we do appreciate the opportunity to be able to do that. And the body weight composite will then now be used as a feed efficiency component of the JPI, but now again it's been updated with specific Jersey information, and it estimates body weight from the PTAs of type appraisal traits, and thanks to the efforts of Dr. Kent Weigel for helping us with that portion of the analysis. To tell you a little bit more about the herds where we collected data, there were 10 reap herds that were from California to Georgia, Illinois, Iowa, Ohio, Tennessee, and Virginia. Of those cows, 79% of them had HR registry status and 21% carried a JX prefix. Again, special thanks to participating herd owners. So the chart before you tells you a little bit more about the cows that we collected data on. As you can see in this chart, we have the lactation number, 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth or greater lactation, and then the overall. And the next column gives you the number of cows in each one of those lactations. And the total number of cows that we had collected information on is 1,384. And an interesting part of this research data collection was we now have representative of average body weights by lactation, and that ranged from 957 pounds in lactation 1, and the average across all lactations is 1,068 pounds. So with the assistance of Dr. Weigel, we took that information as well as the linear appraisal traits, stature, strength, rump width, and dairy form. And he then has put together a body weight composite equation using the research data. To compare to what we had been using previously that was based on the Holstein data, you can see that there is a difference. If you look at the emphasis on stature, it's a little bit more with the Jersey-specific data. The next trait, strength, in the equation, it's a little bit less than what it had been when it was using Holstein-only data. Rump width, a little bit more weight on rump width compared to the Holstein. And dairy form, even though it's a negative number, it's a larger number, so there's more weight on dairy form in this particular equation. For me, it's hard to look at the equations in this form to really capture the changes. So let's put it into a table. what you have here is the values for the body weight composite for the strength, dairy form, stature, rump width, and rump angle. And these are the values that are in the current body weight composite for 2017. You see that that becomes 7%, and that's 7% of the overall JPI. With the December values, these are the new weights. As you can see, 2.4 for strength, 2.2 for dairy form. And I should also point out that in the left-hand column, it tells you the coefficients, whether they're negative or positive in predicting. Now, another way to look at it for me is to say, well, what percentage of the body weight composite is based on one trait versus another? So the whole total comes to 100%. But in the current, what we have with body weight composite now, 49% of it is based on strength. With the new value, that decreases down to 35% of the index. That's based on strength. Slight increase in dairy form, slight increase in stature in terms of the percentage of the overall index, slight increase in rump width. No change in rump angle, since that was not a part of the calculation. So again, just to look at this as a part of JPI, again, the linear traits come in as a part of the functional trait index. One of the breakdowns is the body weight composite. That is our feed efficiency proxy in at 7% of the index. And then these are the values. And these will be the new values for December 2017. To see how that fits with the other components of the functional trait index, again, these are all the linear type traits. You see that the only change is here with body weight composite. Mobility, feet and legs, and udder composite remain the same as what was available or implemented in April of 2017. So again, the only change is for these values right here. Then to look at it in terms of how it fits into JPI, we've got production in at 53%, health in at 27% of the index, and here are the weights for these individual traits. I should go back and say protein in at 30%, fat in at 15%, CFP in at 8%. Then we have productive life at 6%, livability at 4%, somatic self-score at 6%, daughter pregnancy rate at 7%, and cow conception rate and heifer conception rate in each at 2%. So the udder index remains the same, udder depth, foreudder attachment, udder cleft, udder height, teat placement, and teat length. And you see the major component here is at 4.7% on udder depth. Come down to the feed efficiency component, the body weight composite. You see those are the traits that have changed for December. Mobility stays the same. So what we wanted to do was to illustrate the impact of making those changes in body weight composite and what the impact would be on the eventual JPI. So we tested this in the bulls that were marketed active AI, foreign, and genomic tested young bulls in August of 2017. And in that group of bulls, the biggest change was 3 points low or 3 points high. You see that primarily you've got almost 50% of those with no change at all. If you combine the ones that decreased a point, didn't change, or ones that increased a point, we're looking at 94.8% of the bulls in August. So you can see, while it's not a major impact, it does sort some bulls a little bit differently. So now we also tested this on the cow population. We used about 1,000 cows. 500 of those were the HR status cows, and those 4, 5, and 6 with BBRs of 100. Then the other group of 500 cows were those with generation count 3, or 4, 5, and 6 that had BBRs that were 93 or lower. So we tried to get a broad representation of the cow population. And in this case, the changes for the cows really didn't have any at 3 above or below. For the cows, it was all plus or minus 2 points. Again, predominantly almost 50% at no change. But if you look at those that changed 1 point plus or minus, we're looking at 97% that did not change greatly. Might say, why go ahead with this? Well, it's because when we evolve an index, we want to use the most specific and information that's relative to the population. Thus, we've gone ahead and incorporated this into JPI. Again, just another review of how this fits into the JPI traits with the December 2017 changes just to the feed efficiency component. Just to review, in December of 2017, body weight composite will be updated. And again, feed efficiency proxy will be updated, and here it is. And as we saw with our testing, there's minimal change to JPI. And JPI continues to address fundamentals for the breed. We need to increase production, improve the density of milk, moderate body weight, and improve herd life, fertility, udder health, and functional conformation. The next part of the presentation will be the other changes that were introduced in April of 2017. So if you're familiar with this, you may want to advance forward in the presentation, but I'll hit the highlights again. The fundamentals for addressing changes to JPI were based primarily on the findings of a Capper-Cady study that said that Jerseys need to increase production, maintain body size, or maintain and improve components. The JPI will continue to increase production, improve the density of milk, moderate body weight, while improving herd life, fertility, udder health, and functional conformation. So the new traits that were introduced back in April, one was the body weight composite. But as we've talked about prior in this presentation, in December, we're going to update that with Jersey data. The new traits in JPI that were introduced back in April include PTA milk. We'll talk about that. And we'll also talk about the inclusion of the new trait, PTA livability. CFP milk is a new concept, and it incorporates PTA milk into JPI. And it's done in a way that improves production and increases the density of milk. So basically what it does is it differentiates the value of each pound of milk that is being transmitted from one animal to the next generation. So we set our standards that for every 100 pounds of PTA milk, there needs to be 8.8 pounds of combined fat and protein. And this is based on the herd averages when we looked at what the ratio of fat and protein is to a pound of milk. And right now it's at 8.4. We set the goal at 8.8 because that is a way to improve the density of milk. So we use that ratio of 0.088 to determine the pounds of milk that can accompany components and still keep it in that ratio. So what we come up with is the pounds of milk is, and we'll go through this calculation, is that we take the combined fat and protein and divide it by 0.088 to tell us what the CFP milk is. In other words, what is the level where the ratio of 8.8 pounds of combined fat and protein is being maintained. So let's take an example. In this example, the animal has a PTA fat of 80, PTA protein of 80, PTA milk at 2,500 pounds, and then the standard deviation milk at 602.35. That particular value, the standard deviation milk, is a population statistic that we use in the calculation. So it stays constant. It doesn't change from animal to animal, but it is associated with the population. So here we'll go through the calculations. The CFP, which is the combined fat and protein, is PTA fat plus PTA protein, so 80 plus 80, 160. Now we want to know how many pounds of milk needs to come with those components to keep it in the ratio of 8.8 pounds per 100 pounds. So this is the calculation. We take the CFP, in this case 160, and divide it by 0.088, and the result is 1,818.2 pounds of milk. So then we take that information to calculate the CFP milk. Again, a new trait for us. We take the animal's PTA milk and subtract out the pounds of milk that would keep it in the ratio that we're looking for. So here we go. In this case, we take 2,500 pounds PTA milk minus the 18.2, and we end up with 681.8 pounds of CFP milk. So what does that mean? We need to be able to assess a value to that. And in JPI, we've used the -8 value. This is consistent with what has been used in net merit, cheese merit, fluid merit, and grazing merit calculations, somewhere in between. So in this calculation, the value of the CFP milk is 681.8 divided by the standard deviation, and we multiply it by -8 to get the JPI points. And in this case, it translates into subtracting 9.1 JPI points for this animal. So you can say if the CFP milk is positive, back up in here, then the JPI value will be negative. In other words, there's more water than components in this case. So again, this is how we're differentiating the value. So let's take another example. This particular animal has the same PTA fat and protein as the prior one did, but in this case, the PTA milk is lower. It's at 1,600 pounds. Again, the population statistics of standard deviation milk stays the same. Again, the calculation, combined fat and protein, is 160. The pounds of milk is 1,818.2. But in this case, the CFP milk changes because we're taking that PTA milk, which is 1,600, and subtracting out the pounds of milk that we calculated. So we get 1,600 minus 1,818.2. So we end up with a CFP milk of negative 218.2. So what does that mean in terms of value? In this case, the value of the CFP milk is -8 times the division of minus 218.2 divided by the standard deviation, and we end up with adding 2.9 JPI points for this animal. Why? Because if the CFP milk is negative, it says the JPI value will become positive because there's more components than the water. So that's what we want to do, is to reward in some way more dense milk production. So the production traits in JPI right now are milk at the CFP milk at -8, protein at 30, fat at 15, for a total of 53% of the index is on the production traits. Another change that was introduced back in April was the inclusion of PTA livability. Livability measures the ability of a cow to stay alive while on the farm, and where productive life measures the ability of a cow to either avoid dying on the farm or being culled. So they're a little bit different. We're looking at the ability for a cow to let a manager make the decision about whether the animal stays on the farm versus one that dies, that removes the manager's option. The merit indexes right now incorporate PTA, productive life, and livability in a 60-40 ratio. So with JPI, we followed that same pattern. Previously, productive life had been in at 10%. So what we did, we split that emphasis with productive life and livability, and we went to 60-40 to keep that in the same ratio as being used with the merit indexes. So again, here we go. Here is the JPI introduced again to give you an idea of the components of it: production, health traits, and the functional trait index. And we talked about the change in the feed efficiency component, the body weight composite, and these are the only values that change for December. Here's the pie chart again. The things that changed in April was the introduction of CAP milk and the inclusion of Livability. Then for December, we are going to change the weights in the body weight composite. Again, we've gone through this previously in the previous part of the presentation. You see that for December, there's an update in the feed efficiency proxy, the body weight composite. There's minimal changes compared to the August 2017 JPI, and JPI continues to address the fundamentals of Jersey breed improvement with increased production, improved milk density, moderate body weight, while improving health and fitness traits. For more information, you can contact the American Jersey Cattle Association. We do have test data available for those who may be interested in matching your calculations with what we are presenting for December. We look forward to your contact and hope that this information has been useful. Thank you. Goodbye.